So rolling in three, two. All right. Welcome to the Tiny Bar Chats. I'm Edwin Escobar. This is my host, Michael Moon.
How y'all doing?
And let's get right to it. I'm going to introduce my guest today. Today's guest is an educator, an essential thread in the fabric of our community, a bona fide life coach, and unsung hero. Also, a most pure and unpolluted and prolific MC.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Vernon Thompson, Principal Vernon Thompson. How are you today, man?
Yeah, it's good to be here. And I'm always thankful for the opportunity, to talk, discuss, and collaborate with great people.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
I know you have a busy life, and I mean, you're always involved in a lot of things, and especially running a school. So again, we're very appreciative. So before we start asking a few questions, I'm gonna say a few things, and I just want you to tell me the emotion that come along.
All right.
Okay, so let's start with Silent Movement and Catch 22.
The foundation. The foundation.
What are the emotions running through your head when you hear those words and those things?
So when I hear that, I think about the grind. I think about where it started. My best friend and MC partner, Joe Palmer, a.k.a. Gravity back then, we were friends since Park City Magnet, since 4th grade. We came together and we really put in the effort to put Connecticut where it needed to be musically. So it speaks to commitment and the foundation of how to grind, how to hustle for what you want. And as you know, man, we put posters all over the city, mixtapes in the corner store.
Yep.
Our motto was, you can't get a honey bun, you can't get an Arizona or Dutch without seeing our mixtape. That was our motto. That's how we hustle. And that's what silent movement, means to me.
Okay, yeah. Good. Boom. So you're in the studio. There's another one. You're in the studio. You're creating the record Get Mushy with legendary Grouch. Shout out to Grouch.
Shout out to Grouch.
And this is featuring Bones. Emotions.
Yeah. My emotions for that record put us on 937. And at the time, that was a goal for us. So that was like the first single that brought us into a commercial status. It was on Crunk of the Junket. Shout out to Kid Fresh. He premiered that 100% Crunks. And that brought us into, it was a crossover record, hip hop dance hall. So it brought us into a lot of genres, put us in the clubs, but that really, put a stamp on us, going from the streets to mixtapes to being on 937 and heard on a major platform. So that was our first radio single that hit the radio.
Wow,
yeah.
Those were days. I was barely leaving the house as far as creative goes when Grouch was already putting so much work in. So that was an era. So let's go back to the beginning. Where does Vernon Thompson begin? And you can go as back as far as you want to, or just where does your path begin?
So for me in Bridgeport, my first identity, just talking me, Vernon Thompson, was on the basketball court, Sheehan Center, Raffola Taylor Center. So I was known as a basketball player. I made a lot of friendships, and back then, Bridgeport was a neutral place. You could go to any side of town and connect through sports, whatever it was you did. And the Sheehan Center was like a neutral ground. Everyone from every side of town went there. I think that was one of the reasons we didn't have the issues that we have now. There was no, you're not safe in any side of town. We could go anywhere. So basketball was the foundation. Sheehan Center, and then Raffola Taylor Center on the East End with Coach Fly Tubman, who really put a basketball in my hands. And that's kind of how things started for me. I went on, I played in high school, and then I played in college at Quinnipiac University, where I was the first walk-on. I went without a scholarship, and I ended up getting a scholarship. But basketball was my foundation, And then, when you talk hip-hop, growing up in the era I grew up in, I know you probably remember DJ Smash.
Yeah, I'm a lot older than both of y'all.
Yeah, so but hip-hop,
right.
Bridgeport is a hip-hop city when you talk the Skinny Boys, White Flash, DJ Smash,
Right.
EL, Three the Hard Way, Day Money, Superman J, that whole Skinny Boys. Hip hop was the thing. So you could go on public access, and at 8 in the morning, DJ Smash would be playing videos till midnight. So, you know, we grew up very in tune with the culture. Yeah. So it was basketball and hip hop for us.
Right.
And then you had DJ Kingsley with a store downtown. You know, there was so many elements growing up to where, you know, sports and hip hop, that was just culture. That was life, you know. And being in Bridgeport, you got exposed to so much culture with the type of people we were around.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you know, from the days of Catch 22, Connecticut against the world, I was showing Mike here a video. I believe it was you. It was like a freestyle. And Damon Day singing in it. And low key, Quan is in it. Just, you know, this is such a moment. And you know, most people know Dame now as a chef Dame, Damon Day, but he was also been ingrained in a lot of the music. You know,
so Dame. So for years, me, Catch 22 combined with Damon Day, and we were Day of the Catch, which you did a piece on, and we spent countless hours. We crafted a sound, and I think, you know, we were all trying to find our path in life, so we never really got to release a lot of it, but we blended hip hop and soul with Day of the Catch, and people may not realize it now, but Dame Day is like a brilliant artist, a brilliant creative mind.
Yes.
And we would be in the studio for hours, and we crafted a sound that was like a hip hop, soulful street genre with us and him. And we had, I mean, it really would have changed the game if we ever got to release it. But, you know, God knows best in terms of what our paths were. But I think what it did for us as creative minds, as men, the time that we spent, because when you look at Dame Day's cooking, he ties it into how he puts harmonies together.
Yes.
Right.
How he creates. So I think more than anything, we honed our craft, but the time that we spent as men just helped us develop into our next paths. So I feel like we both have excelled in places that we're supposed to be. But I mean, we spent hours just creating, you know, from the production to the vocals. We did a project with DJ Self. So we did a lot of great things that kind of helped our minds get to where we needed to be ultimately in life. And we haven't let the creativity go, but we figured out how you branch off into it. And for him, for me, creativity is a very spiritual process.
Right.
And, you know, I had put it down for a while when I got deep into education, but you still need to feed your soul. You still need to feed your passion. And creativity, it relieves stress. It connects you with God, because as you create, you connect with the creator. So creativity is a major, major force and a driving force in all of us. So if you look at what Dame Day's doing, what I'm doing, we just branched it off into other areas.
Right. Yeah. You think you would ever collaborate with David Day again to do something? Just
we still have. I released one of our records on my last EP.
Right.
I try to release an EP every month to every 2 months.
Okay.
But we still have music that's timeless.
Okay.
So, you know, and it's nothing for us to do it again or make music, but we have a lot of timeless stuff that I will be releasing.
Okay.
You know?
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Cool. There's I mean, creativity finds its way, right? In whichever way. And you said it perfectly. With Damon Day, he just changed the frequencies, but it's the same creative process that I saw when we were working on the visual, when he's in the studio, when he's you know, making food, because it's, you know, in his own words, it's made with love, and no other way to do it than with love. Let's talk about Connecticut Against the World a little bit, because you know, everybody's on YouTube now. We got a little lazy on doing the footwork and being everywhere. Like you said, you can't buy a honey bun without seeing our physical presence, right? You guys were everywhere. And can you tell us a little bit more of that? Was there a partnership? And wow, I mean, what a time. That was a staple.
Yeah. You know, for us, I think a lot of the times the issue with artists is the ego. And the problem with hip hop is it's a culture built on, I have to be better than you. And it's not a culture that's built on what's my creative lane and how do I tap into my process? How do I create what I should be creating? What is my sound? What is my message? It's such a creative, a battle kind of sport where I gotta be better than you. And the way that, you know, you talk to an artist and you say, man, this dude's hot. Well, I'm better than him. Well, why does it have to be that way?
Right.
What do you create? What defines you? And everything should be about what specifically, you know, defines you as an artist.
Yeah.
Connecticut Against the World helped us get to our own one because we felt there were artists we had respect for that weren't being heard. And we were kind of by ourselves going to New York City, going to different places. And we looked at Connecticut Against the World and we said, there's enough talent where we are that if we put it together and people start to see it, they can see that we're as talented as any other place that you go. A part of that creative process is we had to let our egos down. And we had to say, this guy in Hartford is phenomenal. We want him at his best. This guy on the east end of Bridgeport is phenomenal. We want him at his best. This guy on the west end, he's phenomenal. We want him at his best. We want the best in Connecticut performing at their best. So artistically, it helped us because that was almost like a visual album that we were A&R and creating. And it helped us as artists to understand who we were as individuals and to get out of a competitive space and start to make what we needed to create, what becomes classic. And another big thing about that time, we went everywhere in the state to do it. We spent time in Hartford. I mean, we stayed in people's projects.
Yeah.
We spent time in New Britain. We spent time in New Haven, everywhere you want to name, to put these projects together. And they spoke for every city. They spoke for the state. And I think it was important for us to represent the state and to lead in that fashion. So it showed us a lot. But my message to artists now is, you know, you really want to find your lane. And I think there's so many more, like you were saying, the footwork. You don't want to get lazy. You still want to travel. You want to move around. But I think with the opportunities that the current artists have, you know, there's just opportunities we didn't have.
Yeah.
We had no choice.
Right.
So like we couldn't touch people any other way. We did like, we would go to the studio and do 10 promos for Kid Fresh.
Yeah.
And say, Kid Fresh, you're good. You set with promos for us for the next 3 months. So that would get us heard throughout the whole state. We had to find creative ways to touch mass amounts of people. We really couldn't just click a button and touch people. And then the mixtape game, that was a whole nother end.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we practically had to give them out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Or if you selling them for $5, you take 2. You take $1.50, you take what you can get. But we had to find people. And then, I mean, you know what it's like. Your mixtape drops. It's not like you could tell people follow this link.
Right.
We had to go out and find. You had to go out and find people.
Yeah.
You know, you had to go. And one funny story, we did the clothing. We had shirts and jimmies, but we came up with these Connect We Run CT shirts.
Yeah.
We had this design, and we couldn't find people. So we had given up on the shirts. We had given up because you had to walk around the neighborhood. You had to go to a park. You had to see where people were at. They just weren't moving. And we went to one show and we got frustrated and we said, look, we're going to throw a few shirts in the crowd. We came in and people bought the shirts off our shoulders. We had to run back home and grab the box.
See?
And then they moved.
Yeah.
But it was like that. You just had to find the spaces.
Right.
So you really had to do actual hard footwork to get yourself out there. And, you know, I told the young artists, and it just shows the mindset. He hit me up and told me, yo, I want to get a sprinter. I want to rent a sprinter so we could go to the show. I said, take that money, buy a van, get it wrapped, and go everywhere with your face on the van. And he thought I was speaking.
He thought you was crazy. Huh?
He didn't even know what I was talking about.
Yeah.
But I was telling him, you could buy you a van.
Right.
Buy a van for $5,000.
Yeah.
Wrap it with your face on it. Put all your people in the van and go everywhere.
Yeah.
And now you're making a different type of statement.
Yeah.
You know, so the game was just different. We had to really, really put in the footwork. And, you know, there was no click of a button kind of thing.
Right.
You know?
Wow. The good old days without YouTube.
That's like with the music now, especially, you know, they got the controllers that you use and you just get your laptop. I remember when I was a kid, we had to carry crates and speakers and, you know what I mean, and turntables and amps and all of that.
It was an event.
Now, you don't even have to do that no more.
For me to get into making beats, I took a reimbursement check when I was an athlete. They gave us a housing check for the summer. I took it and bought an MP, $1,000. That's how I had to get into. I couldn't just download a program.
Yeah,
right.
So it was much harder to make your entrance into this. You know, so my advice to the artists, and I watch a lot, and I want to see the artists win. And the main thing is you can't look at how much better you are than the next person. Yeah. You really have to concentrate on what your craft is, what your sound is, what your message is.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you'll have something unique that people want to hear. You know, we've come too far to still be caught up in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's different and everybody's unique.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, and you know, competition is good in certain amounts because it does make you, you know, I like friendly competition. We still love the on wax, you know, back and forth. But you can't get stuck on that forever. I think this time to come back, you know, how can we work together? What can we create together that I can't do alone, that you can't do alone? Or how can I help you, you know, reach a different height in this part where you have a deficiency? So that's very true. And with hip hop, it is very like 90% competitive.
Yeah.
But you're very right, and that's an observation that I've heard before, but I think you articulated a little better.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's, you know, you're an educator. I mean, you're not just an educator, but right now you are the principal at one of 3 high schools in the most populated city in one of the richest states in America.
Yeah.
So, you know, let that sink in. That's not a small feat.
Yeah.
And our principals, and it's not about what you look like, but our principals were not our peers. Yeah. Right? Or our kids, you know, our principals were not our parents' peers, as far as I remember. And as an artist, you're still very active, and you really use it to reach kids and people that need to just, you know, get the message about being a better creative or being a responsible creative in a way. But give me a little bit more about your strategy as an educator. I mean, I know being a principal, I don't know the first thing about what that entails. You've been an educator, you've taught, you've been a coach. So that I understand, but and I'm not asking like, you know.
Well, I'll start with my line that I say every day. And myself and my dean, Louis Jackson, we came up with a line: out of love, we build structure. And with structure, our students can and they will build success. So I think, one, you have to do this from a place of love. And this is a thing that I love to do every day. Harding High School is just a place I love to go every day. I don't wake up and say, man, I dread being here. It's a place that I love, and it's kids that I love to be around, good or bad, you know, or if we have to discipline them or not. But I think the first place is out of love. We want to create a scenario where they can most be successful, where the pitfalls aren't there, and how can we remove pitfalls so that success can happen. And everything is not always perfect. And when it's not perfect, you want to respond in love, even if there's discipline. How do we provide support so that there's more tools that you can give a child? And we have the team and the culture that's been building, even prior to me, that we really try to talk kids through it, get students to resolve their problems, use their skills to get through situations. But it starts with, having love in your heart, and kids feel that in an atmosphere. Through all that they're going through, they have to know that there's some people out here that genuinely care,
right,
and that want to see them, do the best. And, sometimes you do bump heads. Sometimes parents aren't happy with every result and everything that's done, but your heart just has to be in the right place, and it just has to start with love and trying to create successful scenarios at all times, for the students. And that's really, my mindset of how we can continue to create scenarios where students can be in a safe zone where they're not mistakes. And that's, you have to look at every scenario with students. If we leave early, is it safe for them to travel this way? Do we have support? In every spot? You can't leave an area where they don't have support. And then you have to fight to give them the best opportunities. So, there are challenges, but I think ultimately you really have to have enough love to take the time to put some structure in place to support students. That's really my angle and my mindset.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I noticed a way more enhanced sense of awareness than what my experience was. Because and my experience was, mine. There's people that were pretty happy. High school's supposed to be like your best years and whatnot. But I just felt like a number.
Yeah.
I don't think, or I don't know if I'm like the exception that fell into the cracks, but it felt like it was just a chore, and I didn't feel seen.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is like you want to shine light into all these areas, to, like you said, to provide, it's not perfect, but safety nets, right?
Yeah.
And almost like everybody's unique and they need their own perspective. You still need a curriculum. They still need to follow a set of rules and a set of guidelines to learn, right? To educate themselves. But outside of that, I think you got a sense of awareness of and being from here, growing up around everyone, friends, or just seeing, I'm pretty sure lost people. I mean, I wasn't even born in this country, and I've lost people to not just gun violence, but just, disease, bad health systems. But yeah, it's I sense a huge sense of awareness that I really applaud. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on. And we wanted to start from the beginning, to talk about because Future 5000, that's what I met you as, and you've been like I said, doing things even though you felt like you were forced to. A lot of people weren't getting out of their seats to go promote. They'll make music and complain, just like today. Nobody rock with me, but there's people like you that kind of set an example of what you could be doing. So
and
I just wanted to give you your flowers.
And as we talk music too, and for artists too, you can't, the problem for especially hip hop artists, stop focusing on being in the circle with other rappers. I think that's where they get messed up too.
Yeah.
It's about who can be a fan or who's listening.
Right.
And those are the consumers or the people in your city that are not in that rapper circle. So a lot of people focus on the circle of rappers. That if he raps and he knows me, and he raps and he knows me, I'm in the circle. And they don't actually need to know you. If the people start knowing, you got to go to the people first. One thing for us as Catch 22 and Silent Movement, our first move, and I'm not saying we did anything so much different than the next person, we didn't go to the rappers. we went to the people.
Right.
We brought it to where people were. We brought it to the corner stores. We put it in the hands of the listener. Then that's the direction you have to go. So it doesn't matter what the next rapper thinks. It's about what the people think.
Right.
When they hear you, do they know you? Do they recognize you? And, you know, one thing we would hit that intersection, Boston Ave at Dutchess, and you would just see the logos everywhere. And that brand recognition was the people. It's not, you know, don't be so caught up in how artists feel about you.
Right.
Yeah,
You know,
because of the point you made about even competition is like, there's not going to be a lot of, it's going to become an echo chamber of, I make music, you make music. Like you need to, you know, your message is not for other messengers. It's for people that need to receive the message. So
the thing that gets me now is like a lot of rappers now, they all try to sound the same. Like whoever on top, they all trying to make the music like that, and they all try to sound the same. And that's not cool. I mean, growing up with all these different crews, I grew up in New York. So a lot of different crews, each rapper had their own sound. You know what I mean? And nobody wants to hear a copycat. You know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely. Now it's like, I mean, there's always going to be the trends and popular things that like, oh, that works for them. Let me try that. Which that's part of it. But I mean, obviously, there's more people. Like you said, is the entrance cost is zero. So, you know, you don't have to go buy $1,000 MPC to make beats.
No.
You don't have to book studio time. You know, a Smokehouse. Shout out to Smoke or
Shout out to
Grouches.
Smoke.
So you don't have to do that. So it brings in more people. So that copycat, you know, the phenomenon that we observed today, it kind of it just multiplies. It multiplies. There's a lot of original MCs. There's a lot of, but I think with kids and young adults, they just follow what might work for them, you know. And if there's not a lot of other examples or someone that's involved in giving them, hey, look, you could do so much more that they can't find, because you're gonna have to make some mistakes to find your passion. But you know, you like Damon Day, perfect example. You know, knocking on doors in the music business, and he found his way seamlessly through feeding people, because that's what he's like. He's a chef, you know, he's a restaurateur, but he loves feeding people. Shout out to Damon Day. Shout out to Damon Day. And you know, to be a disclaimer, a lot of these people are going to be my friends. So yeah, they're invited because they're my friends. So but you know, I don't like hang out with you or throw shots every Friday, but you've been part of my community. You've always been the voice of reason many times. So you know, it's always good to give people their flowers, but also like maybe let other people see what they're doing. There's a young Vernon somewhere that's in 15, 20 years might run a high school in a town somewhere that needs it. Because like you're needed.
Definitely. Definitely.
So music wise, right? And going back to your using your you know, your creativity to educate and continue. So what's coming up as far as EPs go? Because you say you release one like every month, every 2 months.
So I've been doing the Soul for Reals, 4 songs, 4 reels. I try to do it every month or every other month. And then, you know, I'm working with Vizzy. I did the Joe Clark one, which was an education-based project, where we talked about the socioeconomic challenges that affect education. And I put that together working with Vizzy and Sober Sobe. Soul is a partner of mine. And as I started recreating, I had like these records that really talked about what I was doing. And he really told me like, look, you really should focus there and just put the project together that speaks to the work that you're doing. And I kind of had the records already. And, you know, when he talked to me, we came together with that vision. I tapped in with Vizzy and, you know, we put it together. And Joe Clark is an educator who's popular and Lean on Me, but his book called Laying Down the Law really gets in depth into his mindset and the things that he did that are beyond the movie. And he was a brilliant educator who looked at socioeconomic factors. So he wasn't just running through a school holding a bat. It was much deeper than that. And the project kind of gets into the depth of what's impacting education. So I'm working on part 2. I haven't determined a date, but conceptually part 2 is looking at the family and what about our families? What challenges are we facing that are impacting how our child views education? Because I think now if we take a look in our own mirror, we can figure out, and this is not me pointing the finger at anyone. This is me as a member of the community who, my family is no different from your family, but how we look at the Black, the brown family in terms of what's impacting our family structure that then impacts how our child is viewing education. So, you look at I touch on so many factors, from the impact of the mother-father relationship to the impact of the single mother who loses a son and how she then views things. So I had a song called Mama's Trauma, which talks about how a mother replays losing a current son because of what happened to a past son. So every time she can't find this son, she's replaying a situation. So she has a constant fear. So there's so many factors, that we touch on in that project that affect the scope of how we view education and learning and how our values are affected. So part 2, is going to get in depth there. We've done most of it. I just need to get, another round in with Vizzy just to kind of
shout out to Vizzy, by the way.
Shout out to Vizzy.
Sitting in the corner quietly.
Yeah, I say about Vizzy, man, to add, he's the type of guy, if you bring him fried chicken, you're going to leave with macaroni, you're going to leave with collard greens, and then he may hand make some hot sauce to sprinkle on the chicken. So you just bring him something, leave it with him, and he
puts the big pot in the little pot.
He puts it together. Like I bring him, I'll come to the studio, and from doing music, I'll bring him like 8 to 10 instrument stems, and he's like ready to eat. You know what I'm saying? Like it, that intimidates some engineers. You come in, all these stems are instruments, they're not level. I don't know where I hear them, but I'll, reach out, get a guitar player, get horns, get strings, get this, get that, and say, Vizzy, I hear this somewhere. And he'll figure out those somewheres.
Yeah.
So having him and Soul as 2, pieces, in their own way. Soul, it's a lot of pre-work, listen to the after work, and then I bring a lot of the work to Vizzy. It kind of brings together, masterful work.
Yeah. Vizzy's a solution guy. There's people that focus on problems, and then there's like solutions. I was on the phone with him yesterday, troubleshooting my sound. This is a setup that I just kind of concocted to make it less wiry and all that.
That's those the McIver.
But yeah, so I have a great relationship with Vizzy. I met him in our engineer days.
Yeah.
2 opposite camps.
Yeah.
We're gonna have an episode about that. But yeah, so the people you surround yourself, make you and help you. I've seen your collaborations visually.
Definitely.
And every time I see them, I do separate, Principal Thompson from Future 5000.
Yeah.
But obviously it's one person, but it all makes sense. Like it's all one thing in the name of, not education for the sake of education, but creating, these kids are going to be adults. And you want to create successful adults that can enjoy, a life, a fruitful life, that can find success, passions. So that's a huge thing. And a lot of people are not in it for that.
Yeah.
So big shout out again. Let's talk about the next 10 years, right? And we probably go on a little break in a few to thank our sponsors. And then we'll talk a little bit about the future now. And where you see heading. And I'll ask you a few things about what you think education wise, not so much about budgets, but maybe structures, things that you would change if you could, without
Okay.
getting too political.
Okay.
All right. So
Yeah.
we'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Soul Food Sundays, the home of the creatives. Mobile registration services of Connecticut. Located at 40 Fairfield Avenue, right downtown Bridgeport. Exhibit B Agency. Designing bold futures for bold brands. Visuals N Zounds. Audiovisual solutions for businesses and events.
All right, we're back. If you are catching up after the break, we're here with Principal Vernon Thompson, and we're just catching up and talking a little bit about education, music, and everything in between.
Yeah.
So we talked about things we've done, things that you're currently doing. In the next 5 to 10 years, what do you see yourself? What do you see yourself doing, and what's your plan? Or just give me a little bit of that insight.
I think in the educational realm, I'm planning to go back to school to get the doctorate in education. And as much as I think about the future, my future is built. I build the future on executing year by year. So as much as I think about the future, I know I want to go back. And when the time is right for me, I don't rush it, because I do believe you got to complete an assignment. So I am one of the people, I believe that if you don't complete the current assignment the way that you're supposed to, the way that God has assigned it to you, then what is going to be next? So my mindset, as much as I think about what's next, I think in every assignment, I really, really try to max it out and do what I'm supposed to do. A lot of times, some people get so caught up in, I gotta go here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to climb this next ladder.
Right.
But there is no next ladder if you don't do what you're doing well.
Yeah.
So as much as I want to do other things when the time is right, my main thing is just really, really, doing well at Harding High School, and leaving it in the hands to go to the next level when it's my time. But for now, I really am committed to taking the school, where it needs to be. And that's kind of my mindset. But I do want to get, more education and then see what doors open. But I'm the type of guy who believes you have to do what you're doing now very well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like to jump. It's like being in the NBA playoffs. You think about the finals, but you got to get through the first round.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about the second round, but you got to get through the first round, and then you got to get through game 1 and get through game 2 and game 3. So as much as I have my end goals, I kind of focus on the series and really on being the best. I don't like to get ahead of myself.
I see.
I really try to do the best. And I don't want to say the best that I can, but the best that the job needs. So that's like my mindset with things.
Got you.
know.
What could be done? What could be done better in our educational system at any level that you see fit? And this is without, again, pointing fingers, criticizing. You're a solutions guy.
Yeah.
You're not a. It's their fault. It's like, let me do what I can that the job has. But what could be done better? And by who? It could be. I mean, we spoke about family and approaching that. That causal. But what could be done better that will help you as an educator do your job even better? Teachers, administrators, students.
I say to start, I think one, Bridgeport, I think we've identified the systemic problems. We've identified the students who are having the heaviest challenges. And I think we have to think about how we want to support, that population, how we want to heal that population. Because when you think about, and the population is getting smaller in schools. I've been in the Bridgeport public high schools for a long time. There was times we had some hardcore kids because they had seen a lot and we can't blame them for that. They have been exposed to a lot in terms of violence. So when you start seeing people get shot down, how comfortable can you be in a school building without a weapon? You know, what kind of stress are you under knowing that I may have a problem with somebody else, that I had a gun, they saw me with a gun, now we're here. How can I ever be comfortable?
Yeah.
So I think we have to think about our populations that have faced those challenges and think about how we educate them in a place that's appropriate. And I think, you know, sometimes in a regular school trying that, it becomes a challenge for everyone. So I think we do have to think about how to support everyone's challenges. And some students need opportunities in locations that are smaller, that maybe offer them trades. So I think within public education, we have to look at how, one, we service our students who have real serious challenges and things that they face.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we look at our students who are, you know, have seen less but ready to excel in a traditional school setting. Traditional school's not for everybody.
Right.
That's correct.
So I think we have to look at what we can offer, you know, to our population as a whole. And students who are struggling, what opportunities do we have for them? So I think that's a big area that, you know, we can improve in. And I've seen some changes, you know, happening, things that we're currently trying and attempting to do. Because when students hit that point where this isn't the place where they can learn, what do we then tell them? And that's where we need to have an answer. That, look, all right, you're struggling here. This isn't the way you want to do it. What kind of work program can I put you in that's tied into Bridgeport Public Schools? You know, so that's the kind of thing, you know, I think the district as a whole is trying to find those things. But we have to think about that population if we want to change the culture. I think it's slowly changing because the solution can't be what it's been,
Right.
where they all get picked up by the feds and now it's quiet.
Right. Do you think that when, like most kids that are in special education, I don't know, in New York, I know that once they go into special education, their diploma actually says special education when they graduate from high school.
Well, in public school, it doesn't say that.
Right.
In Connecticut, it doesn't say that. There are certain populations, depending on the severity of the disability,
Right.
where they can stay in the school until 22.
Right.
And those are some, you know, some intellectual disabilities where the IQ functioning is lower, and you spend more time in school, and then your focus is more on transitioning, how we transition you into adulthood.
Right.
Their situation's a little bit different, but I mean, special education covers a wide range of areas. So
Right.
If you get a diploma with special education services, it actually doesn't show up on your diploma. In Connecticut, I don't know about New York.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I actually don't agree with them putting that on the diploma. I think it's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if it's severe enough, you'll know.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. In Connecticut, they don't do that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just diploma's just a diploma. Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. How was that? And say in Harding, how do you feel about the programs in special education in Harding as the school that you run?
I love what our special educators do. We cover a vast amount of populations. We have some awesome programs. We have a coffee shop that our students run.
Nice.
Our students, you know, they go outside the building to do transition activities.
Nice.
I like the things that we have going at Harding High School. My master's is in special education, and I once was over special education at Harding. So I like the things that we do. I like the passion that is brought to the classroom. So I think we have some creative outlets for our students who receive special education services.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I always wonder, I don't think we talk about that enough.
That's the best way to really look at it, is to do what you're doing.
Yeah. It's
You should
very
be commended
fast
for
though.
that.
You can, my best friend in high school, he has services for ADHD. He's a lawyer now.
Yeah.
So there are some things. It's very vast in how much services that you get. It ranges, and some students, their disability may just be in reading, but they're brilliant in math.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So it very much varies in terms of what areas your disability is in. Some people, it's attention and focusing on academic tasks, but if you put them in the art room, they flourish.
Yeah.
So it very much varies.
You give them a chance to do what they do and to recognize what they progress in, and that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah,
They tried to give me Ritalin when I was a kid.
Yeah. As much as possible, students who receive special education services, you want them included in the regular education classroom setting as much as possible.
Yeah.
That's where things are going. That's where things have, the law has always sought to give students with a disability the same opportunities as students without.
Right.
And that's the major focus as much as possible. That's what we want to do.
Yeah, it's a sort of integration, which I think it helps the student, of course, feel not isolated, but also gets people exposed, so it's not this big stigma.
Right.
I mean, before I came here, I was in 5th grade, but my mom was paying for Catholic school in Colombia, right?
Yeah.
So, same issue, public schools are not that funded, but, it was really expensive. But there was an integration program with, I had never met or seen a Down syndrome kid.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm saying this wrong. Forgive me, but
so
someone with Down syndrome.
Is student with Down syndrome.
Yeah.
Right.
Or it's just child first language.
Right.
Child with Down syndrome.
Okay, so, but it exposed me, and it was like, whoa, but it educated us, and overall it helped us understand a little more, understand that that's a thing, and that they need, they need compassion, they need a lot. Shout out to parents, because it is such a challenge to raise.
One story just off of that, one of my professors, she got into law, got her degree in special education because her son had Down syndrome. And she demanded that he be in a social studies class in high school with the students in his grade. And they gave her a fuss about it. Because they said, he can't keep up with the work. And she said one day he blurted out name that they were talking about, blurted out an answer. And she stated that that's the reason, that opportunity, that exposure. It has a significant impact.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, mental health of it all is, it's a big issue.
Yeah. I have a friend, his son is autistic, and his big thing is geography and maps. And he can tell you countries that you never heard of, you know what I mean? And that's his thing.
Yeah. The brain is a complicated organ.
Yeah.
I mean, we are so complex, but they'll be proficient, super brilliant in one thing.
Yeah.
And again, identifying that, sometimes it gets overlooked, but identifying that helps, so they can have a fruitful life and be citizens and fathers, and then later educators or lawyers or police officers. So so we talked about the future. I know you like to play right now, do your best, and what the job calls for right now. What do you do when you're not?
But
I'm pretty sure this is second nature.
Before you go there, and it's just a thing that I've learned. The key, just to add another layer to that, is doing your best and educating yourself and certifying yourself. So if a door opens, you can go through it. That's the key.
Yeah.
Right.
So you don't just want to do your best and stay stagnant.
Right.
Do your best, and then what education, what certifications, whatever you're doing, what would open you up to the next opportunity.
Yeah.
So I know for me, as well as I'm trying to do my best here, it's key to always keep educating yourself. And that's one thing I stress whenever I talk to anyone or do an interview. You know, you don't know what doors were opening. Because I was a teacher once, and the opportunity to be an assistant principal, I was a good teacher, but it wasn't just because I was a good teacher. I had to have done the classwork, got the certification. So when this door opens, I can go through that door.
Right.
You know, so.
Yeah. Yeah, you still have to be qualified. I think a lot of people forget about that.
Yeah.
The job requires certain skill sets, and how you manage yourself around your superiors is one thing. How everything's political, not like we're political animals.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you still have to be qualified, and you have the skill set that it requires. So it's a combination. What do you do when you're not? Which I'm pretty sure this is second nature to you. You run in a high school. I can't imagine. It's not. It's a 24/7 job, right, in your head. But obviously you have a family, beautiful family. But what do you do when you're not teaching, educating? When you're not creating, something fun? What do you do? Not necessarily just with family, but what does Vernon do to unwind?
So. Honest, one of my favorite things is watching boxing.
Oh wow!
And I got into boxing. I think you remember Jadon.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So I got into boxing, going to Jadon's fights, and we honestly used to go to support him, but also to hustle the music. He would tell us to come. We met Dame Dash.
Yeah.
We would meet everybody, and we would be moving the music. But I got into boxing, watching him, and that's one of my favorite things to do outside of like creating, because creating is one of my favorite things. Still,
it's second nature.
Yeah, it's what I love to do. But boxing, spending time with family, that's a given that I enjoy. But boxing's like my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing to watch. I love it when there's a good fight on a Saturday.
Yeah, we watch UFC here on Saturday.
Yeah.
Everybody comes over and watches it.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing.
Yeah. I like it too. I like boxing.
Now we know something. Who's your favorite boxer?
So Floyd Mayweather's my favorite all time. Right now, I'm a big Errol Spence fan. He got beat bad by Terrence Crawford. But I still, Errol was my favorite guy up until then. Canelo Alvarez, gotta respect him. David Benavidez, those are my guys.
What about this dude that's the drunken boxer now? What's his name?
The guy from the UK, from England. He's talented.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite boxer?
Prince Nassim.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a good question. For me, I would have to say Floyd Mayweather.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I mean, he's put a.
I think a whole lot of boxers for me growing up when boxing was really, really big. But out of all of that, Floyd Mayweather.
No.
The thing that Floyd teaches you about life, technical skills and discipline, will get you far, even past. There were a lot of. Roy Jones was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But when Father Time caught up to his reflexes, and he didn't have like the discipline and
the chin,
the fundamentals. It's the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Floyd was so fundamentally sound that he was able to box into his 40s.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because there's not a lot. How long was it's a short career.
Yeah.
In terms of like how many hits you can take.
It's like football, same thing. Football, you get hit so much, it's time to retire in your 30s.
Yeah. Wow. I'm not like super into sports. I never really got into sports to a degree. Even soccer, which is because I'm Colombian, but but I'm always interested about like the discipline and the structure it can give you, you know, from being young to like becoming a super competitive athlete.
Yeah.
So I have respect for athletes. So I'm not into like the, you know, following the games and stuff like that. But you know, a good athlete, I mean, they're machines.
Yeah.
They're machines.
Yeah.
Discipline, fundamentals, skill set, and yeah, that's how you stand out.
Yeah.
What is something that you would want people to know that they may not know, whether it's about you, education, creativity, or anything in general?
Man. You know, man, what I can say, I think, you know, it's always good to know. And I still, you know, I think faith is important to me. Faith has got me, you know, this far. And I think that's one of the important things that you always want people to know, that you are a person that's of faith. You operate in integrity. I think that's a big thing for leadership, especially amongst Black and brown men, you know, for us to be disciplined, for us to have integrity, and to stand strong, because, you know, when a community is dependent on you, it's important that you have that discipline and you carry yourself respectfully, out in the streets, publicly and privately. And integrity is what you're doing when no one is looking. So I think faith and integrity are the big things, because our kids need to see that. I mean, so many people that we believe in fall, and we're human.
Yeah.
We're human, but I mean, we can't make excuses for ourselves, you know, as leaders. We have to carry, you know, a standard, because the people depend on it.
Yeah.
You know, the people depend on it.
Absolutely. Yeah. But you leading by example.
Yeah.
And the position you're in, you are in the spotlight and people look up to you, whether they know it yet or not.
Yeah.
And self-respect, integrity are things that take a lifetime to keep. You know, it's something you gotta keep working on.
Yeah.
At least from my perspective.
Yeah. And
because we live in a world where you can get very inundated with concepts, ideas, bad influences at any age, to be honest.
And let me add, anyone out there that maybe you did fall, that's okay. But it's important that you take serious correcting yourself, you know, and you don't, you know, fall and say, well, man, I'll get another chance. Because you hit that point where you won't get another chance. And the problem is when children, even some adults who are not as strong, believe in you, and you don't stand on what you speak, that crushes people.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have to be accountable for that.
Yeah.
So
be the hero that they want to meet. And they say don't ever meet your heroes, but be the hero that they do want to meet.
Yeah.
So I think that's huge, and I think there's a lifetime of work and self-reflection, accountability.
Yeah.
And this is why you are where you are, man.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
So we're gonna leave you guys with this. We thank you for giving us your time. We just wanted to have people here that have succeeded, excelled, and that are ingrained in the community, and that are focused on the village, which is all of us. And what you do benefits everybody.
Thank you.
You know, we have children, different ages. Shout out to Vizzy's new baby girl.
Vizzy.
I guess my investment in Bridgeport school system and just overall quality of life is, I have a daughter, and I believe in the city, and I think I believe, I still have hope.
Yeah. And I gotta say it on air. I went to your premiere, and I had got an offer accepted on a house in Stratford, and he kept talking. Esco kept talking about living in Bridgeport, and I live here, and because I live here, I wanted to film here. And his words just kept like stinging at me. I kept feeling convicted.
Right.
And it didn't sit right in my spirit. And I ended up, you know, being blessed with an opportunity in Bridgeport, but it just I didn't feel right, you know, especially, you know, where the city is going. I think, you know, we deserve to have some investment in it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just kept stinging at me.
I appreciate that.
And
When
I
he
was
called
like,
me
man,
and
I
told me,
can't.
and then
He had
I
a
find
big
out,
impact on that.
I find out, and you know, this is public
Yeah.
record anyway.
Yeah.
It is your sister who I met recently, on when my birthday.
Well, I didn't know Vizzy knew my sister.
So it's such a small circle, but that's what Bridgeport is. Bridgeport is the most populated city in Connecticut, but it is a small village.
Yeah.
And you know, you don't have to be popular, but to know everybody.
Yeah.
And that's why it's integral, because I think when it comes to you know, we keep talking about generational wealth. I think having roots is a big part that we don't talk about.
Yeah.
You know, if you gotta move. If you have to leave a place that is not for you, do it. But having roots in a place, it's part of that.
One of the big things when I was a teacher, you know, I used to Uber, and I drove a family from the Bronx, and they were telling me, they were like, "Look, you're not gonna be able to buy in here soon. It's like
it's gonna get crazy here.
Yeah, you won't be able to buy." So they were just saying how where they're at in the Bronx, it was like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And now, you know, people can't buy.
Yeah.
So
that's like.
Well, thank you for your kind words.
yeah, thank you.
I'm glad I was a speck of influence, but I meant it, and I know you've been invested in our communities for a while. But thank you again for coming.
Thank you, man.
I appreciate your time, and this won't be the last time.
Thank you, man.
So we're always going to be a platform
Listen, man,
for you.
I enjoyed this, man.
Awesome.
Insightful, great conversation,
Thank
man.
you.
So I appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
This was educational for me.
Good.
Because from where I'm from, I didn't know anything about the hip hop game here, except for what he told me. So I'm basically new to Bridgeport. So thank you, man.
Oh, no
Appreciate
problem.
you.
No problem.
And you should be commended for your work.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
And with that, we leave you. Enjoy the rest of your day, night, or morning.
Tiny Bar Chats.